Hello, kings and queens, and welcome to the video version of my journal. I'm Stephanie Rivers. Welcome to the conversation. If you're new to the conversation, we are TriCasting on YouTube Live and Facebook Live and LinkedIn. So we are glad that you're here. If you're returning, welcome back. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so that when I post new videos, you will be the first to know. We have a special for you today. Americans and people around the world have lived with COVID for more than a year. And everyone from age 8 to 80 had to readjust to life during this pandemic. But I think the people who had to do the most adjusting have been parents, because one, they had to get a plan for themselves, their health and their work environment, and then they also had to have a plan for their children. Should I take my child out of school before they close schools? Then they open school. Should I allow my child to go back to school? Is the vaccine going to work for my child? Because it was mostly done, tested on adults. So a lot of readjusting that parents had to do. Now, mainstream media often told us that children in general were having a challenging time adjusting to having school done via Wi-Fi, at home, distance learning. So that was the general feedback that we were getting. And mostly, as with mainstream media, that probably might be the case for white students. But earlier this month, a new study by a Los Angeles-based parent advocacy group called Speak Up, it revealed that when it comes to parents of Black children, especially in the Los Angeles Unified School District, the pandemic gave parents a voice that they didn't have before. And that voice said that now that some school systems are giving parents the option to either continue distance learning or to go back to the traditional classroom, a lot of Black parents say they want their children to stay at home because distance learning has been a blessing in disguise. Now, we've got one of the parents who's going to talk with us and about her personal experience, as well as she also is a consultant with Speak Up. Now, the studies show that Black parents want online options for their children because during the pandemic, when students were forced to stay at home and take classes online, parents realized that there was less bullying going on, less incidents of racism that their children had to deal with. And so their self-esteem and the educational experience had gotten a lot better. And so I want to bring in Miss Renee Bailey. Hi, Miss Bailey.
Hi, how are you?
All is well. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to put your name in the chat, and then at some point, I'm going to get your contact information. So, in case anyone wants to talk to you personally about, they might be watching in the Los Angeles area, and they might be able to either get some more information on Speak Up or give you their personal experience. And so we want to welcome you again to the show. I know that you're the mom of a first grader and a ninth grader.
Yes, that's correct. But what's
And
interesting though, my son not only being a ninth grader, he's a ninth grader in the special education department. So that provides a different perspective right there.
and we can talk about that. So, Speak Up surveyed 500 parents of Black students, and tell me, were you a part of the survey, or you were just in on it because you are a consultant Was that your idea to survey parents?
So it wasn't my idea to survey the parents, and I actually removed myself from the survey, being able to speak up. Um, and the reason why I removed myself from the study is because I didn't want to go in there with any bias. However, seeing the actual results of the study, it actually surprised me because I echo the same sentiments.
Okay, so and it's always good when you can be anonymous, or you can remove yourself from a situation, and then people still see what you're seeing or experience what you experience, and you're like, okay, I'm not crazy. It's not just me. Other people are experiencing this. So essentially, a majority of the parents of Black students said there was less bullying, and their children had the self-esteem was better with the distance learning. What was your personal experience with that, and with your children during the pandemic?
Sure. So my own personal experience, I was one of the Black parents in the beginning that was like, I need these schools to open up because I want my children to receive decent education, especially my son, being that he had an intellectual disability. Distance learning was just completely ineffective.
Mm-hmm.
However, I remember calling up to the school saying my son needs another solution. He needs help. This is not working, and it consistently fell on deaf ears. So I kind of had to take matters into my own hands, and I ended up hiring an additional assistant to be there with my son at home. And I just embraced the distance learning, and we kind of configured it to something that would work for him. And in doing so, I saw a huge amount of improvements with my son, academically and behavior wise. And I also noticed that by pulling him out of the school situation and putting him in this individual setting with this teacher, I was able to have reduced anxiety because I was no longer facing those daily phone calls about his behavior. I was no longer facing, people calling me, asking me how is the best way to get your son to listen. When these are paid individuals that are supposed to be trained on working with children with special needs. So with my son, I've seen he has thrived since being pulled out of public education. But now we're at a situation where school starts in the fall. They want to make it full time, 5 days a week. And I'm like, would it be wise to put my son in a system that has consistently failed him, the previous years?
Mm-hmm. So you and again, that goes back to now you got two children, so it wasn't just one child that you had to figure out a plan for. Now you had at least another child in that you had to have to figure out a plan for. So how are you going to, have you decided, or you're still trying to decide? Are you sending your son back, or?
As it stands right now, I plan not to send my son back. Now, I do have a daughter who is entering the first grade, and she actually is going to attend school on campus. But, it goes back to the disproportionate and the inequities faced amongst Black children versus their white counterparts in the affluent areas versus the lower income areas. So I actually live in South Los Angeles, but my daughter, who's entering the first grade, she goes to a school in West Los Angeles, a very affluent area. So her resources, her school, the environment is completely different than what my son experienced going to schools in our area. So my daughter is going to have her own set of problems. However, she has access to more resources than he ever did because he attended schools on the Black side of town.
So what's the solution then, if I mean, if there is one, because in in the results of the study, it says that one of the things that Speak Up is going to try to do is to ask the Unified School District board to take some of their budget to try to address these issues. But this is something, mistreatment of Black students, or just the ignoring the issue that they face, is systemic.
Right.
How successful do you think Speak Up, or parents in general, will be with trying to get some of the budget money to address this issue?
I think that we could be successful if I continue to put my voice out there amongst the public, because then I can generate interest of others who look like me, other parents that want change, and we can rally together and behind each other to demand change and dismantle a system that has continuously failed our children. When it comes to Speak Up and then wanting to speak to the board, what they want to speak to them about specifically about COVID funds that have been to the school district in the amount of $400 million that the school district has to divert towards Black student achievement. However, we all know that money is not the solution. The solution is actually finding action items and doing something about it. But I feel like LAUSD and a lot of school districts, they do what they think is best versus going to Black parents and Black students and asking them, what do you need? What do you propose the solution to be? So with Speak Up, I hope to elevate our voices as Black parents and get the teachers, not the teachers, but the districts to start listening to us, listen to our recommendations, because we know our children better than they ever could.
Of course, and that's something that a lot of people experience, is that people always study us. They come up with all these conclusions, but you didn't ask me. If you'd asked me,
Right.
I could have saved you millions of dollars in time.
Right,
Yeah.
right, exactly, exactly. And it's interesting, like even with the study with Speak Up, people ask me, are you surprised by the findings? No, not at all. This is stuff that we talk about all the time within the African American community. But here's another, set of data to support what we're saying. Now it's time to actually bring action into creating change. Like, how long are we going to continue to talk about these problems?
So when you said you got a tutor, or you got extra help for your son, was that something that you had to personally pay for, that expense?
Yep.
Because a lot of times it's as if you or the parents have to come out of pocket to either do private school to get the quality results for their children, or they have to do something on their own, despite all the what public schools claim that they are going to do to improve the quality of the experience for all children. It seems as if people end up doing something, paying taxes on one hand, but still having to come out of pocket on the other. So you had to personally pay for a tutor?
I had to rob Peter to pay Paul in order to get my son the help that he needed. But as a parent, that's just the sacrifices that we make. If that means I got to lose out on something, that's just what I got to do in order for my son to be successful. So I had to figure out a way to get him a teacher in home to get him the help that he needed.
So when it comes to your first graders, your daughter, because she is just starting school, do you think she's kind of like going to be more flexible in how she adjusts to whatever happens?
She is gonna. I do believe she's gonna be more flexible, but I think because, like I said, she goes to a school in the affluent side of town, so I, as her mother, have to do my work of making her have her own self awareness and being confident in who she is and what she looks like, and not to let anyone destroy or belittle who she is. So that's the bigger piece that I have to work on with her right now, so that way as she moves up in the academic ranks, like she knows what her job is to do, is to go there, study, learn, and be the best that she can be, and don't let anyone break you down from who we built you up to be.
That's awesome. And when you look across the country, there are a lot of people, whether they're uh, uh, professional um, athletes or uh, entertainers, they're taking their money and creating private schools, or an alternative to a public school. Do I know Pharrell in Virginia has started or is working on starting an alternative school. And of course, LeBron James in Ohio has a number of one or two schools. Do you think that is an option? Do you think at this point, what is the viability of the public school system? Do you think people, especially parents of Black children, should be looking for another option to create where the curriculum is more tailored to them, or do you think we should be demanding more from uh, uh, public school officials when it comes to our children?
So I believe it should be a little bit of both, because every solution doesn't fit everybody. So I believe for those who have to access public education, absolutely make your voice heard. As I said before, we got to dismantle a system that hasn't worked for us. But when I think about the actions of Pharrell, the actions of LeBron, and just recently, Dr. Dre even it jumped into the game by offering a high school that's a alternative type of education to help our kids thrive. I definitely think there's viability in it, because if you think about it, the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over and over again. And as our people, that's what we've been doing with the public education system. They have failed us for years. So, it's only so much speaking we can do until we say, you know what, we've had enough. And we got to figure out what works for us. But as we pull our kids out of these public education systems to put them in other environments for them to thrive, that's when the public education system will start to listen to us, because
Right.
they need those dollars. So they became, I think our people have become complacent.
Hmm.
Therefore, the school districts have been able to run how they've been able to run. And consistently, our kids have the highest number of suspensions, disciplinary actions. Our kids are disproportionately identified for special education. They're under identified for gifted and talented programs. And when you think about the remedial courses that actually lead to college achievement, our kids are less likely to be placed in those classes. At some point, we're going to have to dismantle the system, and that includes doing something different. So if that means pulling our kids out, that's what we have to do until they start listening.
So, is that why you became a consultant in this arena? What is so? Are you? Tell me a little bit more about your work with Speak Up.
Oh, no problem. So my work with Speak Up, I actually lead their African American parent advocacy team. So my work actually came from wanting to rally up Black parents within LAUSD who feel the same way that I feel, that this ain't right. We're paying all this money contributing to taxes to a system that is doing so little for our children. And so because of that, Speak Up has given me the platform to make my voice heard, and also to rally other Black parents so that we can get together and create some systemic changes.
So, if we want to find out more about Speak Up, and if somebody wants to contact you personally, how might they do that? Via email, or is there a phone number?
Yes, so they can contact me actually at Renee at speakupparents.org.
Okay, Renee at
Dot
speakupparents.org. I'm gonna put that in there.
org.
All righty. So I know you have another child that we talked about that took her MCAT. test
Yes.
today. So she's hoping to become an attorney. Is that what
No, she's gonna. Her goal is to become a physician. So
a
she's a
physician?
yeah, she's a HBCU student at Howard University, rising senior. She just took her MCAT
Okay.
today. Yep, and her goal is to become a reproductive endocrinologist.
Wow. Reproductive indoctrinology.
Endocrinologist.
Wow. So she is a product of the a Los Angeles school district. Yes.
It's interesting. She's not. And that's what made me jump in the game with LAUSD to be like, wait a second. Our kids can have more and they deserve more. She actually is a product of Orange County Unified School District. And so when I moved, I relocated to Los Angeles and I saw that this is the second largest school district in the nation. Yet they have the least amount of resources for their students and they offer Black students so little. It's almost like
Mm,
they're setting up our kids to fail.
mm.
If our kids don't have that extra support and the resources that they need, I mean, they're going to be a part of the statistics. When you look at LAUSD, 80% of the students there are low income. And when you look at the percentage of Blacks, it's 8% Black in LAUSD. That sounds like a small number of students, but it's not. It's the entire population of Oakland Unified School District. So
Wow.
they have the influence of a lot of Black lives, and they're not doing right by these students.
And sometimes you have to come from the outside in to see that. Maybe
Right.
if you've lived in Los Angeles all your life and you maybe went to school there and now your kids are in school there, you might think this is what should be happening until you see, no, this is not right, or the money
Right.
should be differently, or the quality should be better. And so I commend you for getting involved, because a lot of parents don't get involved, and we don't know their situation because they're too busy working. I know the cost of living is expensive in LA, and
Right.
they might not have the same time and or support at home to give time. But that's a part of being a parent, responsible parent, is making holding people accountable for your children. So
Right.
I thank you for being involved in that. And hopefully we know whatever happens in the West goes east, moves east. So hopefully parents will see that if they're not getting if their students or their children are not getting the education or the quality, or they're not getting their issues addressed, that they too can speak up and
Yes.
make a difference. So I put in your contact information. It might be that someone who's not in that unified school district but in another one might want help in seeing how they can be heard for their children. So that's why it's always good to let people know what's going on, so you might inspire them to do something as well.
Absolutely. I don't care where a parent is. If they look like me and they need support, they can contact me at any time.
All right, Miss Bailey. Well, I appreciate your time, and we look forward to keeping up with what's going on, to let everyone know what to expect next. So we appreciate you, and you guys have a great rest of your weekend.
Thank you.
Bye. All righty. So again, if you want to contact Miss Renee Bailey at speakupparents.org, I put her email in the chat, and it is again Renee at speakupparents.org. Her name is Renee Bailey. You can also go to the website and let them know that you saw this information. And if you know anyone who has children and for whatever reason they don't feel like they're getting the best results or the best quality education for their parents in whatever public school setting that they have, be sure to send this video to them. So like, share, and subscribe to my video so the next time I post, you'll be the first to know. And with that, we want to wish you a great rest of your evening and a great week ahead. To find out more about the things that I care about, you can go to the written version of my journal. It's at eurweb.com. Thanks and have a super day.